Welcome back to Small Changes, Big Shifts. I'm Dr. Michelle Robin with my co-host Bayleigh Soza. Today is a young man joining me who I've had the privilege of knowing, I want to say about 20-ish years, maybe 25. You'll know the
Yeah.
timing, Dr. Eric. Today, Dr. Eric Phillips, who is the co-owner of Identity Integrative Health and Everyday Athlete Health Club in Overland Park, Kansas, where he helps individuals and families move together, move better, feel stronger, and pursue long-term health through an integrative approach to chiropractic care, rehab, movement, and wellness. But more than anything, Eric is a good dude. He's a great father. He is the nephew of some of my best friends. And so I've had the privilege of watching him grow into this amazing father, doctor, and community citizen. Eric, well, thanks for joining us on Small Changes, Big Shifts.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, and thank you for the very kind intro. And it has to be at least 20, 25 years. So a long time since I was a little
I
tyke.
don't want to age you, but how long have you been in practice?
Yeah. 8.5 years now. It goes fast.
And you were a stellar college athlete,
Yeah.
a kicker,
Yes.
football kickers. That sound right? If I'm doing my story right in my head?
Yep. I was a punter in college.
Yeah. And so now that you're approaching almost the 10-year mark of being a doctor of chiropractic, and I want to say is a father for 4 years, just watching the way you
Yep.
nurture and love them. So well done. But I'm
Thank
curious,
you.
what would you tell your younger self about being the man you want to be? What would you go back and tell your 25-year-old self?
It's definitely evolved. I think that when we're younger, we are in a rush to grow up and get to the next thing. And I think the most important thing we can do in our 20s is just to explore and to experience as much as possible and connect with people and really learn what you like and what you don't like. And don't be so set on this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, because I'm still trying to figure that out now, even though I'm in practice. So give yourself the grace to explore, be curious, meet new friends, and you don't have to settle down and just get complacent.
I think that's great advice, especially in today's times where there is almost this unspoken timeline that everybody's trying to keep up with, that we feel like, we're checking the box, we're on to the next thing. And even though your 20s look completely different for people, some people are settling down, some people are traveling the world, some people are still in school. That time is so valuable to really discover a lot about yourself. But I think that journey really never ends to keep diving into discovery. And I'll speak for myself. I learned so much more about myself entering motherhood. And I've got a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. So I recognize the thick of it and what that looks like as well. And so just really owning what lessons that has brought. So, how did becoming a father really change the way that you think about health and longevity?
It really starts putting in perspective, especially aging, that life is, finite, right? You only have a certain amount of time. And we can affect, to an extent, how long we get and how able and capable we are. And it's really shifted from in my 20s, a lot of my focus was in fitness and health was for a lot of different reasons, very personal, goal oriented, and didn't really look for the consequences or what that would lead to in my future. But having a child and having a kid and being a dad, my health is not solely for me. It should start with you. You have to take ownership of it, but it's not solely for me. I want to be present. I want to be capable for as long as possible. And it's a really interesting thing that I hear in my office, especially since I work in the health industry. I've said it a few times, like, I'd love to live to 90. I'd love to be able to play with my great grandkids. And I've heard back from a few people, and it just really gets to me. People are like, why would you want to live that long? Because most people assume that, 75 to 90 is going to be miserable. And that's become a big mission of mine, is don't let that marginal decade be miserable, right? And that comes at taking care of your health in 30s and 40s and 50s and having that deep, deep desire and drive, which is my children, to keep going.
I love my health is not solely for me. And I think I want to double down on that for our listeners and take it to, first and foremost, I relate to it from a parent perspective and agree that, so much of what I do is for my kids and for their generation that they're going to grow up in, and what can I do to make it better for them as a generation as a whole. I also think that you need to think about it, even if you don't have kids, because it matters how you show up in your
Yeah.
community, in your relationships, in your office. And so whether your goal is to be able to play with your great grandkids, or your goal is to be able to build 15 businesses, whatever the case may be, it's never too late to start prioritizing your health. And your health is not just your physical body, but your mental body,
Yeah.
your spiritual, your emotional. Who are the people you're surrounding yourself with in each decade that's feeding into that next best version of yourself? And, I think a lot of men say that family is a top priority, but their habits don't often reflect that due to different circumstances. Why do you think that this happens?
There's could be multiple reasons for this. Everyone has the same adage that they don't have time. But what I've realized is you're going to prioritize your health one way or another. And it's either because you choose to or you're forced to. And the times kind of, doubling down on what you just said, the times that I've shown up best for the people I care about and myself has been when I've been taking care of my health. And you touched on this perfectly. And Dr. Robin always speaks on this, the 4 quadrants. It's not just the physical, it's the spiritual, emotional, chemical, and the connection and all of that too. And like I said, the time I've shown up the best for my whole family is when I've taken care of myself. And I think that we all have a certain experience in life that eventually we hit a wall and we're forced to do it to take care of our health. And some people just can't quite get over that or haven't been pushed into why they need that until it happens. And when it happens, you just know you have to do it. There's a few different reasons why it could be. I know some people, they do have circumstances that don't allow them, but I do think we can start with very small changes and make big differences.
I'm thinking about just general well-being, and you talked about small changes, which we actually love
Yeah.
to do that on this show for listeners. And what I find is people think they don't have the time or the money. And Eric, as
Yeah.
I've known you as a college athlete, as a young high school student, college athlete, as somebody being extremely disciplined,
Yeah.
tell me about some of your habit stacking. What are things you do to stack together things to make it easier?
Yeah, so this is perfect, right? We live in a world full of optimization, right? Biohacking, optimization, having the perfect routine, which is nonsense, right? Like we're not a checklist and it just makes it too difficult. We all have so much going on, especially in this new age with all the technology, AI, growth in this. You see social media, you should be doing X, you should be doing Y, you should be doing Z. And when I first started, it was the sole thing is just consistency, right? Find something that you enjoy doing and just be consistent doing it. And if that's just going on a walk and listening to the birds, great. And some of the things that just, I started when I was working out probably 12, 13 because of what I saw with my parents, especially my mother. And after being consistent, it was so much of a routine and pattern that it was abnormal not to have that in there. And then that's evolved over time. But I always like to have just a bare minimum, very easy to achieve system that I just check off. Now, I don't want that to be optimization. It doesn't have to be exactly like you need to get, we have saunas, cold plunges, you name it, but just something very simple you can adhere to and check off every day.
You know, it's the philosophy of this small changes mindset. And I think oftentimes in a world of not only just access to information at your fingertips, but specifically well being information at your fingertips, it's so hard to navigate. Should I try this? Should we go this way? Is this good for me? They're getting good results. My neighbor loves this. It's like all the noise all the time. It can get extremely overwhelming to figure out what's that next best step for you. And really, it causes people to freeze and do nothing. And
Yeah.
so, therefore, they just let their health go the other way when in reality, it just starts with those simple things. And I love the advice of like, start with something that you love to do, like whatever that one thing is, and do that consistently. If it's a walk, if it's spending 10 minutes outside, if it's just putting your feet in the grass, whatever it may be that brings you joy, there is that subconscious mind that starts to pick up on, oh, I'm taking care of me. When you do start to do those little things and you start to build that mind body connection that helps with your overall well being, and you balance, running a business, being a chiropractor, having a family, taking care of your well being. What advice would you give to people who think that self-care is selfish, and specifically maybe fathers who are juggling it? And we talked about the time aspect, but what nudge or advice would you give about it not being a selfish thing, but more of an essential thing?
So I was listening to a podcast the other day, and he's a very successful business person, and is talking about how he was able to take time for his family and able to take time for his friends and step away from work. And his main thing was to be where your feet are. And when he was talking about that, it really resonated with me because I think that we try to juggle things at the same time, literally juggle them, right? Whereas we can find a way to just be as present as possible and decide what is important to us and do that. And health has to be a part of that, right? If we don't have our health mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, at the end of the day, what do we have? And it goes back to how we show up for others. So, when you can be where your feet are, you want to show up the best you can. And like I said, I don't think there's ever been a workout I went and done or a meditation session or a breath work session where I got done with it and I was like, yeah, I just feel like being more of a jerk now. That's just what I'm going to do with the rest of my day. And taking care of our health, it's a gift to ourselves and to others, and it just keeps giving. And so we have to be able to compartmentalize and prioritize that and be where our feet are and recognize like this is going to lead to what I want overall. And my kids work out with us all the time. So I involve them. So if you have kids, great.
Dr. Eric, through our conversations through the years, we're wired a little similar. Sometimes we're not where our feet are planted. Actually, most of the time, we'll be here because we're always thinking about how we could be better, how we can help our community better, how we can help our friends and family better, and how we can help the people that we get a chance to serve. I'm wondering, how does chiropractic help your mental health?
It can certainly ground you in certain ways with perspective when you're working with clients all day long, especially when others are dealing with hard to deal with issues. The last 4 years, I've been a major patient of myself. I've had, this disc issues that have led to numbness in my foot and barely being able to hold my daughter. Some other issues that I've been dealing with, both my hips, I tore my labrum in both of those. So that's fun. And it's mental health wise, it's helped me reconnect with my clients on a deeper level and really guide them through the process of healing, not just physically, but the mental, emotional aspect of that. And me being able to share that with them and educate them on that aspect has really returned tenfold to me too, and shifted my thoughts and ideas on what performing really means, because I'm a high performer, and what's truly important. So I think it's kind of, I've gone through injuries and been my own patient and been able to pass that on, but then seeing and being able to connect with others has just like doubled down on that. So helping others has helped me.
Dr. Eric, I bring that up a little bit because as a high school and junior college athlete, nothing like you, but I had my day in the hay back, 4 decades ago.
Yeah.
Got hurt my pelvis playing basketball and went to the chiropractor for the first time besides the neighbor when I was a little kid. And the thing that I can see now 4+ decades later is how chiropractic has helped me not be on medications for myself. And I'm not judging people that do that at all. I'm just wanted to try to dial in with you at a younger wisdom of somebody who's been on this journey not quite as long. Have you put the correlation that when you get adjusted, it kind of calms down your nervous system so you're able to think better and maybe be more present and be where your feet are?
I would say definitely too. So there's obviously the effect that vagus nerve can have on when being adjusted that's going to help regulate CNS a little bit better and get us out of that flight mode from fight or flight. And then also the relief that comes with it. So you have the internal work that's being done, and then you physically feel better as well. So you have the chemical and then the physical, and it just amplifies each other. And it can definitely create a little bit more homeostasis. And it's something that has to be practiced and recognized, but there certainly is a change that does happen there.
Well, I brought that up because it took me, a couple decades till I realized that one reason that maybe I was aging a little bit differently than some of my peers think I should be aging in a positive way. And then we were talking to Dr. Sean a few weeks ago. He would judge me about how often I get massage or acupuncture or get adjusted, or why am I always doing blood work to figure out where I'm deficient. And so that's why I kind of bring it up a little bit. But it took me a while to realize how I have medicated with my well-being lifestyle. And so I just wanted to bring that up in the conversation.
Yeah, and you do a lot more, of the functional medicine, and I'm really starting to dive into that. And you can go so far down that rabbit hole and find so many benefits to, adjustments, some of the supplements that we can add into it as well. And there's just so much that we can do holistically. It's amazing. And that's why we just rebranded our name as well, to be able to expand into that space.
I love that you are taking that bigger approach because, again, like you said, there's so much that can be done holistically. And I
Yeah.
think that it is right now, one, just a lack of education. I think people don't know how good they can feel. And as more people
Yeah.
start to step into that holistic and that preventative ways of being, we're really going to start to see that shift. And I'm excited for that. I think all of us in the holistic well-being space are really excited for the shift that we're starting to see around preventative care. And as we're kind of wrapping up, though, I do want to circle back because you had mentioned something about, what you had told your younger self, and it's kind of been a part of this reflective conversation. And you said something about in your 20s is really about finding community and meeting people and exploring and having, different experiences. And here on this show and with the work we do at Small Changes and just who Dr. Robin and I are as people and what we believe is the community is huge. And same with you as well, right? I think we can all say that life is really more about who you know. And so it's important to make those connections, make those meaningful relationships, and get to know people. And so, kind of as we wrap up, I'd love to hear your take on what community means to you and how surrounding yourself with men who inspire you have played a role into your personal development.
Yeah, I think especially men, I don't know why we do this ourselves, are high achievers. It can be anyone. We try to shoulder too much of what we do on our own. And, life and evolution as we've had it, we grew up in these culture and communities and we've kind of gotten segregated and separated out with social media and this lack of connectedness. And we're really meant to be in these communities and tribes and have this community and support. What it kind of means to me is just having those people in your corner that can support you and be a sounding board and really grow with. And sometimes that doesn't mean you always are growing together, but it means you're growing in a way that is going to serve you both better. And I've been a part of multiple relationships and cycles of that too. And as long as you're going out with good intent, we're all growing together to either affect our current community or the communities that we move on to next.
Speaking of communities, you have one of my favorite families in this city. The way they get to show up for each other, especially through good times as well as bad times. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I have a phenomenal family. So some of my favorite people, my parents are amazing. My dad, he's a funny guy. You want to talk about like support. He showed up to every single college football game of mine except for one, and it was because it was a family member's wedding, and he was very mad about it, actually. He was mad he had to go to the wedding, and I don't remember whose it was right now, but he was very frustrated with that. And that's traveling sometimes up to 12 hours in one day there and back. And I also have a phenomenal grandparents, and my grandma and grandpa that you are familiar with. My grandpa passed away, but they're some of my favorite people too. Just their viewpoint on community and working together and teamwork and just perseverance is just amazing. And so they've really affected me as well, especially my grandpa. He dealt with a lot of mental health issues and abuse when he was younger, and it didn't stop him from raising two amazing daughters. So
We are celebrating men this month, and I wanted to make sure that we got a chance to celebrate you and celebrate your family. And I
yeah,
think the tenets of LTRs, we call lifetime relationships, and,
yeah,
showing up. And your family does show up, and I've watched that. And I think for our listeners, sometimes we take for granted that people showing up for us. And I was having a self-talk, as Crystal, my partner, says, let's have a conversation. And so I was talking to myself. I was thinking about doing this trip, and I was going to maybe go out of my way to see some people that are good people, but maybe me showing up for them at a higher level than they show up for me, and really evaluating that. I think this is a good time to really reflect and be grateful to the people who show up for you. And are you showing up for
100%.
people that are showing up for you? Or are you showing up because we're always reaching for the person who's not showing up for us instead of paying attention to the people that are? So I wanted to acknowledge your family for showing up and in your life. It's one of the core tenets, and the listeners have heard these before, so I'm not going to go through them again. Eric, thank you for showing up for our show today. Thank you for being a man who continually strives to be a better father, a better doctor, a better community leader. Bayleigh and I are honored to hang out with you today. And by the way, happy Father's Day. I know we're a couple of weeks past that, but happy Father's Day to you.
Thank you so much. That means a lot, truly.
All right, to all of our listeners, thanks for joining us on this show today. If there's anything you'd like us to talk about, we don't mind calling anybody around the country to say, hey, our listeners want to hear from you. Don't hesitate to reach out to us and let us know. We appreciate you. Celebrate the male figures in your life. I've got a complicated male figure story, and it kind of makes me chuckle now. I wasn't chuckling 30 years ago because I still was wounded, but now at 60, I just can see it backwards so much better than I could see it forward. So have a great week. And Bayleigh, I'm turning it over to you. Anything else you want to say to wrap up the show?
I think this has just been such a fun series to have these wonderful men on this show, not only willing to open up to us on the call, but to the listeners and being willing to share their story, knowing that somebody out there needs to hear it. So, Dr. Eric, thank you for your vulnerability and for opening up today and for allowing us to see you and for our listeners to hear you and join in and be a part of your story. And the only thing that I just want to make sure we end with is, where can people stay in touch with you to follow along the work that you're doing?
Yeah, well, all of our socials are going to be just Identity Integrative Health. That's going to be Facebook and Instagram. I don't do a lot of updates on our website, but that's identityih.com. And then anybody that wants to reach out and talk, I am an open book, so they're welcome to reach out to you or Dr. Robin, and I just love to help. So I'd love to be there for anyone that needs it.
Well, we really appreciate that. To our listeners, we will put the link to Dr. Eric's social media and website in the show notes. And please feel free to reach out to us if you're looking to connect. This month, we are building community specifically for our men and for the male figures in our lives who are looking for it. So don't feel like you have to carry it alone. We have people that are willing to stand in your corner and help carry the load. So until next time, we're sending you all big heart-to-heart hugs.